Hey everybody, welcome to the realm. I'm Brian,
I'm Rich. How you doing, everybody?
I'm Rob.
and today, keeping with our Scaretober spectacular that we're doing, and instead of our Weird Weekly News, we're coming with another horror movie review. And for everybody who was listening to our main pod last week about Shadow People, you kind of got a tease of what movie we're going to be talking about. 2003's Freddy vs. Jason. Directed by Ronnie Yu, starring Robert Englund, Ken Kurtzinger, Catherine Isabel, Chris Marquette, Monica Keena, Kelly Rowland, and my favorite, Jason Ritter. So in this one, the people of Springwood, Ohio, they've forgotten all about Freddy Krueger, thus they don't fear him anymore, rendering him powerless. So Freddy must find a way to make the people remember him and fear him once again so he can get his power back. Freddy searches the bowels of hell until he finds Jason Voorhees, who was last seen going to hell in 1993's Jason Goes to Hell. Freddy revives Jason, sends him to Elm Street on a fear campaign to make people think that Freddy is back and start to fear him once again so he can regain his powers to torment the dreams of the Elm Street teens once again. However, when Jason starts killing, Freddy gets a little jealous that Jason is bogarting all the fun for himself, and these two horror icons go mano a mano in a battle to see who will be left standing. And I put a question mark at the end of that on my notes because we're going to talk about that at the end. So right away when we get into this movie, it does a really good job. It catches everybody up on Freddy Krueger and Jason through the years, but at the same time, it's giving you a ton of exposition to let you know what this movie is going to be about. This movie is a love letter to the fans in every possible way for both of those franchises. And you could take somebody who hasn't seen either one of those movies before, and I think they would be entertained by this movie because it does such a great job right in the opening of setting it up. And this movie knows what it's doing. Like I said, it's a love letter to the fans. And right away, you see we get the titty shot that we talked about in our Friday Part 6 podcast review. But right away, the movie does it, but it doesn't do it in the same. They're doing it in a way like they're winking to the camera because it kind of puts you right back into those movies. And I know, Rich, you've rewatched all those Friday movies, so I'm wondering, and like when that happened, did it work? Is that what you thought? It kind of put you right back into all
Yeah,
those earlier Friday movies?
yeah. Because what it reminded me of a little bit was the Jason X when they do the
Mm-hmm.
virtual reality, and that
Yes.
where are they going to go where he feels the most comfortable? 1980.
Right.
That's where they're going. And what is it? Two young girls at the Camp Crystal Lake in sleeping bags. I mean, it goes right to that same type of opening. It goes to the same type of scene as the opening of this Freddy versus Jason. That's the first thing that came to my mind. I'm like, it reminds me a lot of that scene where
Yep.
he's back in his element. They set the stage of what Freddy was of what Jason was all about.
Right. And that's kind of what I was saying is they really do a good job of giving you a bit of Freddy's chocolate and Jason's peanut butter and kind of putting those together. So when the movie picks up after we get that, we find out that that's all in Jason's hellbound dream that Freddy has infiltrated to revive him to bring him back, which he does in the form of Jason's mom, which again was a great callback to the first Friday where we see that like that's what that whole series is about.
Mm-hmm.
And he really that's another one. There was it I can't remember if it was part 2 of Friday the 13th, the one where the final girl is a psychology major and she uses that on Jason and pretends to be Mother at the end of the movie. I think that's part 2.
I believe it's part 2.
And she puts the sweater on. She puts on Betsy Palmer's sweater from the first movie, which is really gross. So I was just thinking of that now, that's kind of a callback to that Freddy is calling back to that and using that psychology of being Jason's mom. So once Jason gets revived, he's heading to Elm Street. So once Jason gets to Elm Street, the first kill is at our final girl, Laurie's house. Again, Laurie can't be a coincidence that her name is Laurie, like Laurie Strode from the Halloween movies. They're putting those little things in there, which is nice.
Yep.
I like these group of kids. They feel like the typical friend group that we get in all of these movies, in the Nightmare movies and Friday the 13th. I feel like they do a really good job of almost parodying those actors, how they were playing those characters in the original movies. So we have one of our kids in our friend group, a friend of our main girl Lori. A friend of our main girl Lori is Gib. Gib's boyfriend shows up. They have sex. We know that this is going to piss Jason off because he's drawn to that like, moth to a flame. He kills the kid in a really cool way, stabs him with the machete, folds the bed up, which was awesome. And
not for him.
No, you're probably right. It really,
he probably would have.
It really,
way, but yeah.
Yeah, Rob, what do you got? How did you feel about that scene?
Well, I mean, I figured he was already dead.
You would think
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
It was just the movie's over the top, so they had to do something over the top. I mean, it's not a movie that's made to scare you. Friday the 13th was made to scare you. Nightmare on Elm Street was made to scare you. This movie was made to entertain you. It is. The whole movie, obviously, is like a spoof. And, yeah, right from the get-go, from the boobs and the regular-sized machete until it stabbed the girl through the tree, where it had to have been about an 8-foot machete to do all that.
Yeah, right.
But, yeah, the whole movie's got that over-the-top feel to it. So, yeah.
So once we get the first kill out of the way and we get to our police station, that's when we kind of get our first little inkling of what Springwood has done to try to make sure that Freddy never comes back. We get a little bit of the conspiracy talk that they've been hiding him away by taking any teens that know anything about him or that they think know anything about Freddy, and they're sending them away to Weston Hills Psychiatric Hospital and giving them Hypnosil so they can't dream, which both of those things are callbacks to Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 Dream Warriors, which is awesome that these people go back and they're pulling stuff from all these movies and sprinkling it in, kind of making the fans, like, they're giving us what we want, which is always nice when the people who are making the movie are making it for the fans. And these guys are doing a great job. Also, they use CGI really well in this movie. When they get to the police station and Laurie falls asleep, and they have the shot when she walks by all the missing kids on the bulletin board, and the faces kind of come alive and turn and watch her. I thought that's kind of the really good slick CGI that they're using in this movie that's not ridiculously over the top, but it's super effective.
Yep.
Did you guys notice any of that?
Oh, I did, definitely.
Freddy's plan is working awesomely, by the way. So his whole plan of Jason's going to come back, he's going to start killing, people are going to assume it's Freddy. This literally took no time at all. Like, 2 people get killed. Oh, we have the very funny death of the best friend of Trey, who gets folded up in the bed. He's our typical... I love that he has his dream. Freddy's not powerful enough to kill him, and he wakes up sitting next to his dad outside on the porch, and his dad's head just falls off of his shoulders with a geyser of blood. And then the best part is that the kid actually uses his dad's head to try to block Jason's machete from killing him, which makes me laugh every single time.
Quick thinking.
That's all he had available.
Right?
Yeah. It didn't work. I mean,
no, absolutely not.
It was disrespectful at the worst, I suppose, because it didn't work. So, it's poor dad.
Should have threw it at him and ran instead of holding it up.
Oh, see? Now you're thinking.
Yeah.
See, and this is why
we all know how well that works on Jason, throwing things at him.
That doesn't work well at all, ever.
And we see that in this movie. when he
Yes.
throws the stuff on the table at him,
Yes.
like scoots it at him.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
it's funny every time, though. I love the laughs that they get with all that kind of stuff because it's great. But after that kid gets killed, we have 2 dead kids, and the whole town seemingly already knows that it's Freddy. Just because Laurie hears the name Freddy Krueger once in the police station, Freddy needs to run for office because this man came up with a very simple plan, and it's working amazingly. We get to Weston Hills, and this is where we see my favorite character. I'm just going to call him Jason Ritter. His name is Will in the movie, but come on, he's Jason Ritter. Who doesn't love Jason Ritter? We get to Weston Hills, and we see kind of how the whole institutional way that they're keeping these teens sequestered there and giving them their Hypnosil, and it's really, it's not a horrible idea if you think about it. I mean, if there really is a boogeyman who's killing teens in their dreams, and you have a drug that can stop people from dreaming, they should probably be giving it to everybody. But I don't know if they need to go about it this way. But they want us to see how terrible it is, that the cover-up is really bad. But again, I would argue that the grown-ups actually might know something here. So Jason Ritter and his friend Mark, they escape from Weston Hills. They meet up with Laurie and our friend group. Oh yeah, let me ask you this. Did you guys like the stupid subplot of Laurie's dad? That he might have killed the mom, and he's a doctor at Weston Hills. Did that? It really bothered me. Did it bother you guys?
Why did it bother you? Because it didn't fit?
It didn't fit. It was.
You would need more backstory on the murder for it to actually fit in. It's like they filmed a whole bunch to it, and it probably ended up on the cutting room floor. And then what was left isn't enough to really. But it's also part of the plot, so you can't really take it out. It's like they didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it felt like, and it didn't add anything to the movie, and I feel like it just bugged me every time they brought it up. It really bugged me.
They were just trying to make him seem like a shady character and just wanted people not to like him. They're trying to give you a reason, give you a reason to feel like he could be a bad guy. Right. Maybe.
I know. They really, it really bugged me because it never went anywhere. Now we get, once our Jason Ritter and his friend Mark, they've met up with our group of kids. They have a cornfield rave because 2 people at school just got killed. So like they do in these movies, it's fucking ridiculous. But Jason does have a lot of fun at the cornfield rave.
Hey, what's worse than Jason Voorhees?
Jason Voorhees, who's on fire.
Yeah.
And Jason Voorhees on fire, I giggle because it's so funny. It's so silly how they do it too. But the movie totally can get away with it because it's like you said, Rob. It's all over the top, but they're actually doing it well enough that I'm laughing with them, not at them.
Oh, no. No, this movie's so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really be mad at it.
Right. I mean, and the fun kind of gets ramped up with Jason and Freddy. This is kind of the scene that really starts to get us into the title of the movie, Freddy versus Jason, because up until this point, Freddy is fine with letting Jason do his thing. It's once Gib is at the cornfield rave, and she's passed out drunk. So in her passed out haze that she has in that dream, Freddy's finally powerful enough that he can kill her, and Jason beats him to the punch in the real world. Because in the real world, glow stick guy, we'll just call him, which I couldn't wait for that guy to die.
He was up to no good.
He was up to no good. He was up to no good with Gib as she was passed out, and Jason shish kebabs those 2 with the machete, killing Gib in the real world, meaning it robbed it from Freddy in the dream world, and Freddy's pissed now. He's pissed off. But I love the scene because Jason is fucking awesome. Once he's on fire, like we said, I love that he gets put out. The fire gets put out because he swings his machete and hits a keg of beer. And the beer is what sprays on him and puts the fire out. I love that. Then, I was also going to drop this in, Rich, because I know you particularly hated Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. So
hate's a strong word.
Awful.
I just thought it was a shit show from the beginning. I mean, I watched the whole thing. It was entertaining at some parts, but it was just, I was just bad.
I mean, Jason boxes a guy's head off. That was kind of fun.
Out of answer me this, all the Friday the 13th movies you've seen at Camp Crystal Lake, where Freddy's at, I've never seen a cabin cruiser moving around out there on the lake.
No, they actually go around the entire lake in the movies. So a couple of times they swim across it. You can cabin cruiser across it.
Trolls
it's not
on
a big
in there.
Lake.
Not only that,
and then the Love Boat pulls up.
Yes, they're going to leave Crystal Lake on a cruise ship to go to New York from New Jersey. They would probably be easier if they just drove to get to New York for their senior trip or whatever they're doing.
You can see New York from New Jersey. I don't think you need a cruise ship to get there. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Yeah. It was.
So once they.
So what's your question anyway? We don't want to rehash this nightmare of.
Right. So in Jason Takes Manhattan, once they actually arrive in Vancouver, I mean New York, everybody. God, that was piss poor. So when they finally get there and they're on the subway and shit, there's people everywhere, and Jason is only going after the people from the cruise ship.
Right.
That's stupid. He should be having a field day.
Right.
So when we get to the cornfield and Freddy versus Jason, he's doing what he would be doing. There's just a crowd of teens there. He's just trying to mow down as many of them as he can. Like that fixed a wrong in that movie. Although in Part 8, when Jason goes into the diner and and welcome to New York, when they get in there, and the big guy who comes out from the back that Jason throws.
You mean Jason?
That's Ken Kurtzinger. That's Jason and Jason.
You mean this Jason?
Freddy.
Jason throws himself. Yes.
Yes.
He's a big guy, ain't he? Woo.
The whole cornfield slaughter was like a choreographed dance scene.
Yes.
Everybody would face Jason and he would get slashed and they would turn and the blood would shoot out like you were at a Guar concert. It was fantastic.
Yes.
And it happens several times in a row and you're like, they should be playing better music.
Well, look at the time. That was the one, and the glow sticks were terrible though. That was not a good look. So Freddy gets his first kill. He gets Will's friend Mark, and they also remind to the audience that Jason was just supposed to make people remember, but now he's gotten carried away and Freddy is angry. They make a point in that first kill to remind us, in case we're not paying attention, that Freddy's mad now at Jason. We have a deputy who shows up into the movie. He just got transferred from Crystal Lake, New Jersey, and now he thinks that this is a copycat killer of Jason. He's a brief ally to our Scooby Gang. He's there basically just to give some exposition about who Jason is so the kids can kind of have the other piece of their puzzle to come up with their plan. I love the scene when they're kind of hashing it out, and Laurie says, Freddy died by fire, Jason by water. How can we use that? I don't know why that line cracks me up every time, but it's so silly that thank you for telling us this. Thank you for telegraphing it.
Yeah, it was odd that all of a sudden everybody knew all about Jason. Right? Nobody, I don't know. Did people really talk about Jason internationally? I don't know, but now we know. Because they knew how he died and where he was from, and it was interesting.
It was like they needed to get the Jason information out, and they were like, oh shit, how do we do that? We're in Ohio. oh, we'll transfer somebody from Crystal Lake. He knows everything about Jason. Like, he's a Jason historian. He's watched all the movies. He knows everything.
Yes.
You know, but I love that that's all it takes for them to put their plan together. I also like Laurie's dream there is because it's one of those more realistic ones where kind of just everybody starts talking shit about her. The people who are her friends turn on her in the dream. It's one of those nightmares that's a little bit more realistic, you know, and I thought that was nice to have kind of a realistic nightmare for her in that moment. Of course, Freddy pops up, and much like in the first Nightmare on Elm Street and in part 6, she rips his ear off. So instead of a hat or a piece of the sweater this time, it's Freddy's ear, and she pulls it into the real world. And now they know how they can get this whole thing figured out. So the kids go. I have to talk about this. See, I'm gonna do it as quick as I can because it's another one where it's really weird, but they had to do it. The kids break into Weston Hills to get some Hypnosil, and Freddy goes into full caterpillar mode from Alice in Wonderland, and he uses the weed smoke with the Jay and Silent Bob kid, Freeberg, and he uses the weed smoke to possess Freeberg, who then faces off against Jason, and he's able to stick him with a bunch of tranquilizers. That scene was always weird to me, but it was like they had to do it because we had to get Jason into a dream state, so Freddy can kind of have a first match with him in the dream world. Like, we had to get both. We had to get Freddy into the real world, but we had to get Jason into the dream world. So this was the way they thought of. Did you guys think it was entertaining, or did it kind of stand out as weird?
Well, I mean, the Jay and Silent Bob kid was kind of ridiculous,
Yeah.
but yeah, then they confused him with the smoke, and wasn't the actual possession when he crawled into his mouth?
Yes. Yeah. So that's kind of a part 2 kind of thing, maybe a little bit too for Freddy. There was a lot of busting out of the body, and
yes.
So, but that gets Jason into the dream world, and Freddy throws everything he has at Jason. It, again, is kind of a callback to part 6 of Nightmare on Elm Street, where everything got a little bit more Looney Tunes and wacky, because he tries killing Jason in very wacky ways. But Jason's kind of the ultimate dream warrior until Freddy realizes Jason is afraid of water. So now Freddy is having fun with that. Our Scooby Gang's plan is they're taking the tranquilized Jason in a van, by the way, hence the Scooby Gang, in a literal van. They're taking him to Crystal Lake. Never mind the logistics.
Parking a mystery machine out back.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, they call it out in the movie. But the logistics make no sense that they're driving from Ohio to New Jersey that night with Jason, but we'll let that go. This movie is fun. So the Scooby Gang is taking the tranquilized Jason to Camp Crystal Lake, so that way they can pull Freddy into the real world and they can let these two battle it out. Now, once we're in Jason's dream, this is where the movie kind of starts to make us root for Jason. They start making him a sympathetic character by showing us, how he actually died, or at least what his dream memory of how he died at Crystal Lake. And I think they try to make him a little bit sympathetic, so we're rooting for him a little bit harder. Did you guys pick up on that?
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
Well, it's hard to really root for the child killer,
right?
As it is, as opposed to the picked on kid who's getting revenge.
Right, exactly. And I feel like they want to hammer that point home to us, that he is kind of the lesser of two evils. After all, you can always try to run away from him. You can't get away from your dreams, So I feel like they're setting him up to be kind of the hero figure now. Freddy gets pulled into the real world when we get to Camp Crystal Lake. There's a long dream that goes on with Laurie and Freddy, and it kind of wants to wrap up that whole subplot with her dad being possibly complicit in some of these bad things, and that always struck me as a little weird. I like the imagery that they did because it kind of went back to some of those earlier Nightmare movies, but I was kind of over that whole subplot, honestly. I've made my peace with that. But we get Freddy into the real world, and now from this point forward, the rest of this movie is an action movie. I mean, it really is just all out action. I love the "man the torpedoes" line that Freddy gives. That's awesome. And I also like the bit with the rebar that he drops on Jason, and he's kind of stuck in that construction pit. And is that a cement? I'm not sure what.
It is a cement. It is a cement mixer.
Yeah, a big cement
I like
mixer.
how
His
Freddy
around.
is now he's in the physical world and he can't move that cart that gets jammed.
Yes.
He's too weak.
Yes. And I love that he actually was doing like physical MMA style moves
he gives him the elbow
in the beginning. Yes, he actually is doing like some kidney and rib shots, and then goes up with an elbow to the collarbone. Like it was really funny to see that. And the movie realizes how funny it was. And Robert Englund, kudos to him, because he was really selling the comedy of that whole thing. Very like wacky Looney Tunes. So now once these two battle it out, we get everything we've always been kind of waiting for. We get Freddy using the machete, we get Jason using the glove. They find a way in this movie to actually use fire and water together, which was impressive to me, that we have a way for a propane tank to explode. Laurie and Will make that go off. Freddy and Jason both light on fire. They both go into the water. So now both have been hit with their kryptonite. So right at the climax of the movie, we get both of them thrown into the water. We see that Laurie is waiting on the dock, because she has to make the line that she doesn't want to leave because she has to make sure that this shit's done because Freddy killed her mom. So instead of doing the smart thing and leaving, she wants to see it. And she also had a tattoo show up out of nowhere. Did you guys notice that?
I did not notice that.
I didn't notice that before, but when I seen it, I was wondering, is that real?
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird.
I wonder if that was there, or if they just stuck that on in the last minute.
Yeah, it was very weird because I didn't notice it the rest of the movie, and then she had a tattoo there, and it was... So Laurie wants to see this thing through. We see somebody approach her from behind. We see a leg, and we see a machete, and we see that it's Freddy. He only has one arm. Jason ripped off his gloved arm, and we see Freddy is standing over Laurie with the machete. He's gonna swing, and what happens? Jason pops out of the water with Freddy's fucking arm and shoves his arm that's still wearing the glove, through Freddy's chest. And Laurie picks up the machete. She gets to have, the welcome to my world, bitch, or whatever. She has to get a bitch line in that Freddy would normally do.
And Freddy does use that line.
Yeah.
He uses that line earlier in the movie, and she uses it back on him.
And yes. So they called it back. It was funny because Danny is like, see, why does she have to have her Merry Christmas moment? And I said, because that's what this movie is doing. If they wouldn't have done it, it wouldn't have worked. I feel like they're using it, but they're using it in the right way. If they wouldn't have done it, we would have missed it. And it is kind of she used his bitch line, which was kind of fun. So she lops his head off. We see Jason float to the bottom of the lake. But our last shot, we see it's the next morning, and walking out of the lake, palming Freddy's head, is Jason. But the movie doesn't end, not until we get a wink and a nod from Freddy, and the movie is over. So my question at the end of this movie, who won?
Well, nobody won. Nobody won because you can't kill Jason. And Freddy's always, he's not really physical. I mean, we brought him out, but for the most part, he's this nightmare kind of creature, Shadow Man, right? So, does anybody who won King Kong versus Godzilla? So you could debate that all day. Who got the most blows? And we could do the card like a boxing match. And so you got the most punches in. I mean, it certainly looks like Freddy got the best of him in a lot of those scenes. He slashed the shit out of him a bunch of times while Jason just stood there. But, I mean,
Mhm.
in the end, you know that neither of them are going to die. Now, I
Right.
did notice that after this movie, the only Jason or Freddy movie were the reboots, right?
Yes.
That was the only movie, and to me, made me think, as American movies love to flog dead horses. I mean, neither of those franchises were doing very well at the time,
Hmm.
so they had to do something, maybe to beef it up, because we haven't seen anything, a Freddy vs. Jason, anything like that since like Frankenstein meets the Wolfman
Right.
or House of Dracula, or we had those team ups like that, which was really cool that they did, but it made me think after watching that maybe that's why they use these two. I wouldn't say there's a hands down answer to that, in my opinion. I will always be a bigger Jason fan than I am Freddy, and that's my 2 cents on that question.
What
I
about
think
you, Rich?
I think Laurie Campbell won.
She did.
Okay, she did.
I
You're
think
right.
she did.
I think she's the winner. As in all the
Wow.
other movies, there's always one person left, and they're always victorious, and they're the hero or whatever the
Well,
case may be.
we didn't
You
get
know?
to see the bear. What happens next? Maybe she got stuck in the insane asylum.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh,
We've seen movies
that's
end like
true.
that before. Where next thing you know, that's where they're at.
That's where they're both at. And
Yeah,
Yep.
I think it was a
I
good
just
ending though. I like the ending.
Well, it's one of those endings where it's whatever you want it to be. If you
Sure.
want to think that this is in Freddy's head at the end, it could be Freddy's. If you think that this is all maybe the whole thing was a dream. Maybe the whole thing was a nightmare, like the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Actually,
well,
scratch that. That would piss me off.
you got to apparently what we've learned from this movie is that dead people do dream, because the whole
Yeah,
movie starts with Jason's dream and he's
that's
dead.
true. Ooh,
That
that's true.
that I mean, Freddy's not really physically alive, is he? And Jason's definitely not. But if you cut them, blood squirts out of them as if they're
Yes,
beating hearts. So,
yes. I mean, Freddy, we get kind of explained in part 3. He's a poltergeist. Is I think how they reference him in the course of that series. But
I could see that. Yeah,
what if this whole movie is Jason's dream from the beginning, and he dreamt the whole thing?
dreamt the whole.
so was he dreaming about Freddy, or was Freddy actually in his dream?
Just dreaming about Freddy, because the movie starts like you
Then there would
said,
have to
Rob.
be some point where he would have had to get some context about Freddy. No.
Well, he has contact. Well, Freddy drags him down to hell at the end of Jason Goes to Hell.
True.
Hey, if
True.
if Wes Craven says that the first Nightmare on Elm Street, the whole movie was just a nightmare, none of the movie happened. It was all Nancy's nightmare. It's a Nightmare on Elm Street. It's Nancy's. I'm gonna rewatch Freddy vs. Jason and look at it through the idea of it's all just in Jason's hell-ridden or hell-bound head that he has.
Well, and also, when you think about it like this, as far as timeline goes, actually the next movie is Jason 10.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. If you go in the actual
Chronological order.
timeline, if you were that's interesting. I didn't think about that. That if
Right.
you went
And what happens at the end of that one?
chronologically,
He ends
he's
up crashing
back
the
on
Earth, right?
Earth too. Yeah, yeah, he's back on to whatever Earth-like planet we
Whatever.
have.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right where he wants to be.
I will right where it's right
In
where
the
he wants
woods,
to be.
right by a lake.
I will say that after watching this movie again, I used to be much more Team Freddy, and I feel like I was a bigger fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. But over the last few years, I've really, I think, become a bigger fan of the Friday the 13th series. I feel like I've grown an appreciation for those. There's something about those that are just, they're always fun, even the bad ones. Even part 8, you could have that movie on while you're doing stuff and laugh at how absurd it is. I feel like there's so much fun with the Friday series.
But there was some uncomfortable in the beginning of Freddy vs. Jason. There's
Yep.
the scene with the little girl in the boiler room, right?
Yep.
Which goes back to the child murder. But Freddy does some creepy, almost sexually assaulting even jokes in this movie that it's like, sorry, man, I can't be Team Freddy with you in this state, man. Team Jason all day.
It was weird with that too, because Freddy was always a child murderer. They always put that, like, that's what he did. It wasn't until the shitty remake that they had to just destroy the whole franchise. But he was a child murderer, so there was the scenes in this movie, like with Lori in her dream, whereas the first time could be kind of messy, and I always had a thing for the horror.
Right, because those blades creep up the thigh, and then they go to her face, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Right.
I don't know.
That was not really Freddy's MO through all the other movies, and then it was weird because
and then him with the dead girl
very out of place.
In the other dream.
Oh yes, in
at
Jason's dream at the camp. Yep. Yeah, Freddy shouldn't wear T-shirts. That was weird. That was really
but all the other girls should have.
Well, if you guys liked us talking about Friday the 13th Part 6, if you guys liked hearing us talk about Freddy versus Jason, maybe we'll throw some more of these out. Halloween is coming up. Maybe Halloween 3 at some point, if everybody is up for it. I feel like that's...
I would love to watch Halloween 3 again.
Yeah.
Speaking of child murders... No,
you guys are killing me with these horror movies, man.
If you haven't seen...
I gotta watch all these movies, man. It's like bringing back, like, I don't know. Some of the parts I remember in some of these movies, other ones, I didn't remember any of them.
Yeah, I cannot remember... The only thing I can remember about Jason Takes Manhattan is the boat pulling up and him boxing that guy's head off. I can't remember anything else from that movie. But then I don't really revisit these movies that much. I watch newer stuff. So it is a flashback to go watch some of these movies.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it sounds like if you guys like it, we're probably going to be bringing you a Halloween 3 review coming up in the near future. But I think that's all I got. Rich, where can everybody find us?
Right here in my basement. No.
Party at Rich's!
If they want to listen to us.
Yeah. If you want to find us anywhere, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Google. I think we're on most of the major platforms. It's The Realm. You can also find us on Facebook at The Realm Paranormal Podcast and Investigations. We do investigations as well. And if you need to reach out to us, you can catch us at connectedrealm@gmail.com. And if you have any questions, anything you want to tell us, any suggestions for the show, or any paranormal stuff you want us to talk about, or places to investigate, feel free to reach out. I know that we've had a lot of people reaching out to us, sending us messages. Keep it up. We read all of them, and we've got several, I think, stories coming up later this month for the Weird Weekly News besides these movie reviews we're doing. I think we do have a couple other submitted stories that we're going to go over. So, looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks for all the fan mail.
All right.
All right,
With
guys.
that, we'll catch you guys later. Ciao.
See ya.